Okay, so an incredibly dumb regulation imposed on businesses in Minneapolis has been shown to cause terrible side effects that actually cause the problem it's intended to prevent. This is, of course, very commonly the case with regulations. In Minneapolis, after a liquor store was looted and apparently over $1 million worth of alcohol was stolen, I'm assuming that was over the course of some period of time. I don't really know how in one instance someone carries that much alcohol out, unless they're just taking the absurd top shelf stuff that costs $1,000 a bottle. That tastes just like the $50 bottle, by the way. Don't waste money on that stuff. But anyway, that's not the point. After this looting occurred, this business owner wanted to get metal shutters that you pull down. This would, of course, protect the business from all sorts of things. People throwing stuff at the building, breaking and entering, setting it on fire, or breaking the windows. Which, by the way, with all the window breaking going on, we should be seeing a huge surge in economic prosperity. I wonder why that is, but I digress. So this business owner wants to get metal shutters, but a ridiculous regulation forbids him from doing this. What's the reason why you're not allowed to have these shutters in place, you may ask? Well, according to the government, those shutters cause a visual plight. It makes the area look unsafe. So, number one, you're not allowed to look a certain way. Well, that's a fairly subjective thing that should not be imposed on people by government. And number two, you are not allowed to protect yourself and your business in a way that you see fit. That certainly is a law that should be ripped apart and discarded immediately. And here's the funny part. This law, designed to prevent an area from looking unsafe or perhaps economically sluggish, has caused the exact problem it was designed to prevent. How many times do I find myself saying that about regulations? Because of this law that intended to prevent an area from looking impoverished, because of this law, the area now looks impoverished. Because this law has made it extremely easy for people to, as I said, smash windows, burn places down, break in, and steal everything. That, of course, will lead to businesses dying off, and soon they'll be boarded up, vacant buildings. So great job with the regulatory state again, causing the problems you think you are solving. In your attempt to appear safer and more prosperous, you've made yourself unsafe and impoverished. This whole thing should just remind everyone of what happened with the certificates of need with the hospitals, or the FDA and the CDC and their regulations on hand sanitizer, masks, ventilators, and testing kits. These regulations that they impose because they think they're keeping everyone safe, they actually end up hurting people far more because they diminish the capability of people acting on their own accord or acting in their own circumstances with their own resources and in the context of the society that surrounds them. This ends up hurting far more than it helps, if it even helps at all. FDA is the same way, by the way. They keep drugs from the market that may hurt people. It's true. They've potentially prevented some deaths or ailments from some drugs. But what they never tell you about, and what they never point out, even though they must be aware of it, are all the drugs that ended up being hugely beneficial that they kept held up in their approval process, and they never take responsibility for the deaths that occur from people who were waiting on them to approve the drug. I've talked about that research in the past that showed the FDA is actually a massive net negative in terms of the loss of life in that regard. Well, Minneapolis here has a regulatory state that seems to be a net negative too. Maybe they kept real estate prices a bit higher for a while because of this regulation. Maybe, that's a possibility. But is that worth the cost of one day when those metal shutters are needed to possibly prevent mass destruction? Well, I don't think so. But it doesn't really matter what I think, and it shouldn't matter what politicians think. The only person whose opinion should matter are those who own the damn businesses themselves, and government should absolutely not have the right to do this to people. It's despicable, and I'm really hoping that this madness shines a lot on the stupidity of the state, and maybe a few more people will wake up and realize what a drain the government is on society, even in the realm of their supposedly more trivial regulations. They can still cause massive problems, and that much is as obvious as the sun. But that's all for now. Like and subscribe because it's hugely kind and awesome of you, and take it easy.